What's going on, guys? Welcome back to TFD. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and if you've been here before, double check to make sure you're still subscribed. You already know how YouTube be playing with notifications and all that. And yeah, now let's get into it. Today we're talking about Caitlin Clark, the WNBA, and the sports media, because there's a narrative floating around right now that is absolutely wild to me. So the schedule dropped the other day, right? But let's not forget, there's still no CBA deal in place. That's a huge part of the story that a lot of people are conveniently ignoring. No CBA, a ton of uncertainty, players not fully protected, league politics, money issues, it's all still up in the air. And yet, sports media has already jumped to this big conclusion that the Caitlin Clark effect is over, that fans don't want to fill big arenas anymore to watch her play, that teams have moved on. And I'm sitting here like, based on what? Because when you actually look at what's happening, this isn't about Caitlin Clark suddenly not being a draw anymore. This is about risk management. Teams are nervous because last season turned into an injury-riddled mess for her, and a lot of that didn't happen in a vacuum. Let's talk about that. We all saw what Caitlin Clark went through in 2025. The physicality, the targeting, the lack of protection from refs, the league letting her get beat up night after night like it was just part of the game. And the result? She misses most of the season. So now, from a business standpoint, these teams are saying, we can't move this game into a 17,000-seat NBA arena if there's a chance Caitlin Clark might not even be on the floor. Because if she's not playing, people aren't buying tickets. It's that simple. And that right there proves the point everyone keeps trying to deny. Caitlin Clark is the face of the WNBA, not because the league wants her to be, not because the media wants her to be, but because the fans decided that. Let me ask you something real simple. What other player in the WNBA makes teams consistently move games into bigger arenas? Who else causes franchises to go from a 3,000-seat gym to a 17,000 NBA building? You already know the answer. And yeah, before somebody runs to the comments, I know there have been a few one-off cases where a team upgraded for another star, but not like this. Not consistently. Not league-wide. Not every time a certain team comes to town. That only happens with the Indiana Fever because of Caitlin Clark. And yet, sports media keeps trying to tell us, oh, the league is just growing so much because of all these amazing new stars. Unrivaled is doing this player is doing that player is the real reason. Look, other players can be good. They can be great. They can be all-stars. They can be elite. That doesn't mean they move the needle the same way. Caitlin Clark moves the needle. Now here's where it gets even crazier. Instead of protecting the biggest asset the league has ever had, the WNBA allowed a culture to form where jealousy, pettiness, and ego ran wild. Players took shots at her. Media narratives turned weird and racial and political. Owners said dumb stuff, and the league itself just sat back and let it happen. All Caitlin Clark fans wanted, literally all they wanted, was to watch her play basketball. That's it. Nobody was asking for parades. Nobody was asking for every headline to worship her. They just wanted to enjoy the game. And the league wouldn't let them. They dragged her into politics. They dragged her into race debates. They dragged her into player drama. They let her get physically targeted on the court. They let reporters ask messy questions. They let teammates and opponents say slick stuff. They let everything get ugly. And now everybody's shocked that fans are like, you know what? If Caitlin's not playing, I'm not showing up. Why would they? Why would someone pay big money to fill up a massive arena for a franchise that openly acted like they didn't even want those fans there? Let's be honest. A lot of people are not trying to go drop their hard-earned money to support an organization that spent the last 2 years acting like Caitlin Clark fans were the problem. So now we get this headline. Teams are moving fewer Fever games to big arenas, and the media spins that as, oh, see, Caitlin Clark isn't the draw anymore. No, what it really means is teams are scared to gamble on a star the league didn't protect. That's on the WNBA, not on Caitlin. If the CBA was signed, if the league had real structure, if refs actually enforced rules, if players were held accountable, if the league didn't let jealousy fester, if the media didn't make everything toxic, you'd see those arena upgrades come right back. Because Caitlin Clark is still Caitlin Clark. She's still the player people tune in for. She's still the jersey people buy. She's still the reason casual fans even know what the Indiana Fever is. She's still the reason the WNBA had its biggest rating spike ever. And everybody knows it. So that's why this whole situation is so frustrating. Not because people want the league to bow down to her, but because the league refused to protect what was growing the game. Nobody is asking players to worship Caitlin Clark. Nobody is asking media to write poems about her. All people are saying is stop trying to hurt her. Stop trying to diminish her. Stop acting like she's the problem when she's the solution. If a reporter asks a question that involves Caitlin Clark, just answer it like a normal human being. Don't be slick. Don't be bitter. Don't be passive-aggressive. That's it. But instead, everything became a fight. And now the league is dealing with the consequences. Fans are selective. Money is selective. Attention is selective. If Caitlin's playing, people show up. If she's not, a lot of folks don't care. And that's not hate, that's reality. So when you see teams saying, yeah, we're not moving this dame into the NBA arena this year, don't fall for the media spin. That's not Caitlin Clark losing power. That's teams protecting themselves from the mess the league created. Once the CBA gets signed, if it ever gets signed, and once the season gets closer, watch what happens. You'll see more upgrades, you'll see more big arenas, you'll see more national TV games. Because Caitlin Clark is still the engine. The WNBA just tried to drive it with the parking brake on. And now everybody's acting shocked that the car slowed down. That's on them.
Here said teams move fewer Fever visits after Caitlin Clark's injury-riddled season. Indiana had 9 road games moved to larger arenas last year, but just 4 so far for 2026. The WNBA is moving more games to different arenas this upcoming season, but Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever have significantly fewer of those games. The regular season schedule announced Wednesday includes 19 games moved to alternate arenas, up from 15 games last year. And this is what they're not telling you yet. You've got to pay attention to this. A lot of this has to do with expansion franchises. In recent years, WNBA teams have moved games to larger arenas to accommodate more fans and to appeal to different markets. This year's increase is largely due to the Toronto Tempo, one of the league's new expansion teams, along with the Portland Fire. The Tempo are playing 5 home games outside their usual venue, Coca-Cola Coliseum, including 2 games each in Montreal and Vancouver. However, opponents have moved just 4 games to bigger arenas for Caitlin Clark and the Fever this season, down from 9 last year. Those 4 games are July 5th versus the Aces, August 8th versus the Sky, August 18th versus the Tempo, August 20th versus the Wings. Do you notice something? These are later season dates. And I think a large part, if not all of this, has to do with the CBA situation, because there's a real scenario where games at the beginning of the season could be lost, and we could be looking at a shortened season if the CBA isn't finalized. The Chicago Sky and Dallas Wings each have just 1 moved game this year, down from 2 last season. The Mystics, Sun, and Dream each moved 1 game against Indiana last year, but none have done so yet for the upcoming season. I'll be shocked if the Atlanta Dream and the Washington Mystics don't eventually move games for Caitlin Clark. The Dream play in a 4,300-seat arena, and the only reason the Connecticut Sun likely haven't moved games yet is due to uncertainty surrounding their franchise situation. But I'd bet those games eventually get moved. Some of this also has to do with the fact that Caitlin Clark missed time last year due to injury. But if she enters this season healthy, you're going to see franchises move games just like they did the past 2 years. The Liberty, Portland Fire, Mercury, Golden State Valkyries, and Lynx already play in NBA arenas, so there's no need for them to move games. The decrease in moved Fever games comes after Clark played in just 13 games last season. She appeared in only 3 of the 9 moved games. Even so, the Fever were still the league's biggest draw, averaging 15,884 fans on the road, about 4,000 more than any other team. Every Indiana road game moved to a larger arena sold out. So yes, even without Caitlin, the Fever still sold games. Now, here's the difference: gate revenue. Some of the games that were moved last year saw ticket prices drop once it became clear Clark wouldn't be playing. I tracked it. Prices steadily declined after fans realized she was out. The games sold out, but at lower price points. It is what it is. A Fever spokesperson told Front Office Sports, quote, "We can't speak to what other teams may do in terms of venue changes. But I'll say this. I'd be shocked if these games don't get moved once the CBA is finalized. The WNBA released the 25 schedule 2 months earlier than usual, and the Dream already announced that their May 22nd game against Indiana will move to State Farm Arena, home of the Atlanta Hawks. The Wings announced a week later that they moved a game against the Fever to American Airlines Center.
All right, so look, we're at the end of January right now, and there's still about 6 weeks before we even get to March. Last year, teams were still moving games into bigger arenas around this same time. So I don't believe for 1 second that the Caitlin Clark effect is gone. Not even close. I've said this 100 times. The moment Caitlin Clark sinks her first 3 in an official WNBA game, especially a logo 3, it's back on, full speed. All the noise stops, all the doubts disappear. People don't want theories. They don't want debates. They want to see her in an Indiana Fever uniform playing real basketball in a real game. Now, I'll say this too. There's definitely some bitterness from fans about how her injury situation was handled. The Fever kind of strung people along. Fans thought she was coming back. Then suddenly, there's an ankle injury nobody even knew about. And the media connected to the Fever got real weird about it. Vague, defensive, acting brand new. Let's just keep it real. But still, none of that changes what happens when she steps on the floor. The second she's in uniform, the second she pulls up from the logo and drills one, all bets are off. I'm calling it now. The Wings, the Dream, and probably a couple others are going to regret not moving those games to bigger arenas. And yeah, I wouldn't put it past certain WNBA owners, Dream, Mystics types, to spite Caitlin Clark so much they'd rather lose money than benefit from her popularity. That tells you everything you need to know about how smart some of these people really are. So what do you think? Is the Caitlin Clark effect really over? I don't buy it for a second. Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you on the next one.